that on the very first day we launched the satellite, there would be nobody to subscribe to it. So I had to raise enough money to carry us through a few years. But there were tough times, and we were running cash flow negative.
How much did you raise in the beginning, if I may ask?
Over $2 billion.
Wow.
And I'll tell you publicly, and I've said this before, and it's beautiful because Howard Stern has said to me, Martin, you gave me my life. This is my dream. You've made all this possible. And I've said back to him, I said, no, Howard, you saved the butt of SiriusXM, because never do we get more subscribers and more loyal people willing to pay for SiriusXM than after Howard came on board.
Wow, that's amazing. And what made you believe Howard would be such a pull at that stage? You were a New Yorker?
He was already very popular. Howard was networked in 10 different cities through Infinity Radio. But there were rules at the government level that you could not own more than 10 radio stations. So when I went to the FCC and I said, I want to bring content like classical music, like Howard Stern, like deep track vinyl and whatnot, I want to bring this to every single city in America. Then what happened is the National Association of Broadcasters said that's illegal. Why should you be able to own a radio station, in fact, 100 radio stations in every town and city and village and nook and cranny of America, and we, ABC Radio and CBS Radio, we can only own 10. That's not fair. And I said, you know, technology changes, and you have to, why should people living in smaller towns be deprived of the content that people get in New York City and Washington, D.C.? Fortunately, the FCC agreed with me. And even though people said what I was doing was unconstitutional and was going to, you know, destroy democracy in America, all that book, you know, fell away. And what I said to the FCC is truth and technology will always triumph over bullshit and bureaucracy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where does this certainty come inside? I can understand the engineering side because you knew it. It was the facts. You figured it out. But this belief that I can go raise billions of dollars, this belief that I can change the rules completely, where does it come from in your life? Are you born with that? Was there a stage in your life where you started to develop that certainty and started to have more trust in yourself, or where does it come from?
Yeah, you know, trust is something of a becoming. And I don't think it's realistic to think you come from a position of no trust to complete trust in yourself. And I always say one of the adages at my company is that people who criticize you and challenge you are your best friends, because those are the ones that are pushing you to think through things that you hadn't thought through. So when I started with satellite communications and designing the Sirius satellite, it was in fact too big to fit into a rocket. So the people that told me this was impossible were not entirely incorrect. To make a satellite so powerful that you could blast 100 channels into a flat antenna, there were no rockets at the time large enough to carry that. So I looked around the world. I talked to the French company Arianespace, and they were just in the process of developing a much larger rocket. So I said, well, this is a perfect use for that larger rocket. And they said, yeah, that is. And one thing leads to another, Tony. It's the same thing with the current company I have, United Therapeutics. When I said I have a medicine that can stop the disease that's ravaging my daughter's life, people said, you don't know anything about medicine. You're a satellite engineer. If it existed, doctors and scientists would have invented it. I wasn't sure, but I kept doing the research, and the more I learned, the more certain I got. So I think confidence is something that you have to build up bit by bit.
Yes. I want to come back to Sirius, but you've opened the door. Talk about your daughter, Genesis, and tell us a little about what happened with her and how did you go from an engineer into biotech and build another billion-dollar company?
Yeah, so I'm running Sirius, and we're skiing in Colorado, and our youngest daughter, suddenly her lips turned all blue. She has no energy. We went home. We went to doctor after doctor. Nobody could say what was wrong. Finally, she couldn't walk up the steps to the house. And we end up at Children's National Medical Center, the biggest children's hospital, with the head of cardiology. And she has said, they said that she has a 1 out of every million-person disease, and she's going to die in 3 to 5 years. So I just said, like, no, that can't happen. And I said, there must be companies working on a cure. No, this is too rare of a disease. No one's going to make a cure. There must be some other medicine that could be repurposed to this. No, this is a disease that only affects the blood vessels between the heart and the lung. And there's no way to just affect those little set of blood vessels and not affect all the other blood vessels in your body. So, Tony, I had no confidence I could do anything in this area.
But you had to.
I had to save my daughter.
Yeah.
I had to save my daughter no matter what. I would have just punched my fist through, the strongest concrete wall to save her. So I just sat there, and as I said before, I kept learning and talking to doctors. And whenever they said something couldn't be done, I figured a way around that. And one of my favorite sayings is like, it takes 99 no's to get a yes. So people could tell me no 99 times, and I appreciate every additional one of those no's because that's going to get me closer to my yes. And finally, I was able to find in the library at this hospital an obscure publication of a drug that was being developed for a completely different disease. But they noticed that it reduced the blood pressure just between the heart and the lungs.
Wow.
And they said, this is of no use to heart failure. But I said, whoa, that's like exactly what I need. So I made a beeline to that company, GlaxoSmithKline. I said to them, I will pay you guys to develop this drug because by that time Sirius had gone public, had resources. They said, no, we don't need your money. We're a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. We're very sorry about your daughter, but we don't develop drugs for orphan indications. I said, okay, sell it to me. I'll do it. That wouldn't be ethical. You're a satellite engineer. You don't know anything about medicine. We might be sued. So I had to keep, knocking on their door. When they told me I didn't know anything about medicine, I hired some medical doctors. When they told me they would only license it to me, I got lawyers to come up with the licensing. Long story short, I got that medicine out of there. By the way, when I got it out of there...
How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
I will tell you,
how long?
I ran because I felt like I was Jack and the Beanstalk, and I had just gotten the golden hand, and I was running out of there before they changed their mind.
How long did this process take from the time you heard about Genesis' real problems to the time you were able to find the solution?
18 months. 18 months.
Is that incredible? Give her a hand. That's unbelievable. Talk about a mother's love lifting up a vote.